Hey there, welcome to the podcast for creatives. I'm Sasha Souza, CEO and celebrity event designer for my company, Sasha Souza Events, and I am a digital course creator and mentor through the Consultancy for Creatives, where we serve the industry with downloads, courses, and my Creative Collective monthly membership. We work with over 140 creative event pros every month from all walks of the event industry, and we work on their businesses to take them from run-of-the-mill to rock star status. Check out information for the Creative Collective at consultancyforcreatives.com and make 2021 and beyond better than you ever could have imagined. All right, today's podcast is titled, Can She Be Meaner? I mean, really, that is a real question that was asked. And when I tell you what happened, it will probably blow your mind. But this all stems from a time when I was working on getting my very own television show. And I turned down one of the largest TV networks in the world. So I'll just preface this podcast with that little tidbit. But prior to this, I had already done many different TV shows. A lot of people who listen to the podcast or who are in the Consultancy for Creatives, they know me from Whose Wedding Is It Anyway, which was a TV show that ran in kind of the mid to late 2000s into probably 2010-ish. And we had a really great time shooting episodes for that. So we had done Whose Wedding Is It Anyway? I had done a number of, I had done, Sunday morning, like CBS Sunday Morning. And I had done a lot of really fun projects, Marcel's Quantum Kitchen. And there's another show called That's My Party. So I'd done a little bit of TV and I'd learned a lot of really important lessons in what it means to do TV shows. And so I'm just going to paint this picture for you because we're going to take it back. We're going to take it back to 2011, which seems like, it was not that long ago. But when I tell you what happened, you'll be like, wow, crazy. I never knew that it worked like that. So essentially in 2011, I have worked with a publicist for the better part of, probably 17 years. And the publicist received the email from this production company, and we had been down this road numerous times with numerous production companies looking for a host for a TV show or looking for somebody to feature. And it was just another call. And to this day, I still get those phone calls. And we still, go out and do the interviews and things like that. And sometimes they come to fruition and sometimes they don't. But this one was not just for a TV show that was had a premise. The premise of this show was that it was about me and it was about our events because the production company had found some things about how we work and they liked the story and they felt like they could build a really cool story around us. And I thought that was super awesome, given that, we're in Napa Valley, San Francisco Bay Area. We're not in a major metropolitan market. We're not in New York. We're not in LA. And so they were really interested in what they saw with me and what they saw with how the company was run. So we get approached by this company. And again, we're always a little bit wary, but we agreed to go ahead and fly down to LA and sit in a meeting with them about their grand idea for this Sasha Souza show. And so as I'm sitting in the meeting, I was blown away because they had this enormous presentation available for us about what they were going to do and how it was going to work and what it was like to have your own show and where they wanted to pitch it. And, all of the different ways that we could go with it. And it was really quite extensive. And I really like these guys. I mean, I think they're awesome. And they really they understood my personality. And so, we go to the meeting and this presentation blows me away. And I'm just like, yes, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. So we start working on this event. And the working title was Events by Sasha, which is a tragic name for a TV show, but that was just the working title until we ended up with a real title. So we entered into a production agreement with that company. And when we did that, I signed a little contract with them saying what I was going to do and, how many hours I was going to have to shoot with them and what type of schedules. And so we really started pretty much right away. We did a number of things over GoToMeeting or something of that nature where I did, background interviews and stuff like that. So anyway, so we do this agreement and they decide to shoot what's called a sizzle reel, which is just basically a 3 to 5 minute sort of highlight reel that makes it exciting, right? Makes the network want to actually buy the show. And so we go and we shoot this 5-minute sizzle, and it's more interview style. They aren't at an event, they're in my office. It's my entire team. So it was not just me. I was the lead on the show, but it was also Melissa, who's been with me as an assistant or, director of operations or whatever we want to call her, because she does pretty much everything. We were Melissa was on the show. My entertainment director was on the show. My photographer was on the show. My floral designer was on the show, and our caterer was on the show. So this was truly a show about how you create an event using the same team and how that team could turn around these events so that they all looked completely different, even though they were same people working on them. And they also wanted, the ups and downs of planning and the positive and negative. I mean, that's what makes for good TV. Am I right? So they come out and they shoot the sizzle, and I get the sizzle back, and it's actually hilarious. I still have it, and I don't know if it's mine to show or not, but if it is, eventually I'll go ahead and put it on just for a little bit of fun. I will put it on perhaps some social media or something just to show it, because I think it's really quite interesting how it was put together. But so the 5-minute sizzle gets shot, and they shop it. They already knew who they wanted to shop it to. And it's one of the largest entertainment companies in the world owns it. And it starts with the B and N's in VO. So I'll let you figure that out for yourself. They loved the sizzle reel. They loved it. They were like, oh my God, this is so much fun. She's so fun. The people that she's works with, there's a few little gaps here and there. We need to develop who they are a little bit more. Everyone had to have a role, right? So I was the ringleader, and we had the person who was going to be the scapegoat, and we had the person who was going to be the person who went behind everybody's back, and there had to be somebody who was the bad guy. So we had to actually develop everybody's characters actually for what was supposed to be a reality TV show. So everyone gets assigned their role, and whatever they're happy with it. So they decide that they want to shoot a 20-minute mini episode. So the show itself was supposed to be 42 minutes, which would have made an hour-long TV show every week. And so they come out, and this time we have to shoot events, and they want to really see my personality. And a lot of people didn't know this, but I have a motorcycle license. So at the time I had a motorcycle, so they went out and they shot me riding my bike. And it was a lot of fun. And that week we had 2 events. So it really was a great juxtaposition between what I was doing for an event and what Melissa was doing for her event. And Melissa's event was at Candlestick Park, which was the former 49er stadium. And it's so windy that I'm not even telling you. I'll tell you that story in a minute. But so I'm shooting in Napa. Melissa's shooting in San Francisco. We each have pretty much the same team. I have one part of the floral design team. She has another part of it. We had different caterers on those gigs, but it was exciting. And during the filming, they're having me sort of I have to call Mel and tell her that the buses didn't arrive. And Mel's like, you're lying. You're just lying. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. The buses never picked anybody up. And that's the kind of drama I figured that they wanted. And so I was like, oh, that's pretty harmless, to tell that and say, oh, the buses didn't arrive, or nothing fits in the ballroom, her schematic didn't work, and to get her all kind of hyped up. Like, she needs to be more hyped up on wedding day because, like I said, I'm going to tell you this story. She was working at Candlestick Park, and during one of the walkthroughs, the groundskeeper of that property says to her, the wind lives here. We just let it out once in a while. And so she's already got all these problems. I mean, just like problems on problems on problems. The wind is so hard at Candlestick Park that day that the photo booth blew over, the DJ table blew over, the linens were blowing off the table. She had to staple them to the tabletop to keep them from knocking off all the glassware. And that event was a 40-person lunch or dinner for a gentleman who was turning 40. So we did it on the 40-yard line. We called it 40 on the 40. So it was football centric. We had the 49er cheerleaders, and they got to come through the tunnel, and it was a big surprise for him. So it was made for really good TV, especially when we set off these cannons of confetti, and they went out of the thing. They went boom and flew off and stuck to the wall. And so we have that going on. They come out with the salads to serve them, and the salads were flying off the plates. Like, this is enough drama for us, right? And I have my own set of issues with, it's like 108 degrees where I am. It's so incredibly hot and so incredibly miserable, and we have in a very public space, and so we had our own stuff too, right? But it was nowhere near that. So we were thinking, this 20-minute gig is going to be like just freaking perfect because it's got so much drama, right? So they film those, and and afterwards they're basically drawing up the contracts and doing all that stuff. They're doing background checks, and I have to submit to psych evaluations and all that kind of stuff to make sure that I'm not, any more crazy than they already know I am. So, and I hire an entertainment lawyer. So contract comes in, and the contract was really good. It was $10,000 an episode with a minimum of 10 episodes. So it was a $100,000 contract to shoot these 10 episodes. And then it had a 20% bump for the second cycle or for the second season. And then by the time we got to the third season, the rate was exponentially higher. So essentially, by the time I was getting into like the third season, I would be doing nothing but the show. And the show would be finding my clients. So it wasn't going to be a situation where I was going to have to, how I put this? Like, I wasn't going to have to worry about, having to do 20 events a year plus the show. So, and the contract for each of my vendors was different. So Melissa's was about half my rate, and then it just went down from there because it was less time, because I was the main, lead on the show. So, and what that rate included was, I just pulled the contract. It was on-camera shoot days, on-camera intros, narrations, voiceovers, what's called a pickup, where you have to go back in and retape some stuff, lead-ins, lead-outs, electronic press kits, behind the scenes or making of footage. So I had to do all of that. And then not only that, but it also included, doing a reasonable number of print, radio, and television interviews, participation in still photography sessions for promo, both on and off set location, doing what's called an SMT or a satellite media tour, which I've done for other organizations where I've represented their brand. And you basically sit in a room and different news stations from across the U.S. come in and ask you questions. So a satellite media tour, promotional screenings, a reasonable number of public and non-performing personal appearances for non-paying audiences. And then I also had to do short segments, host wrap-ups, all this other stuff. So it's a really long list of things. And I had to give them a minimum of 5 hours per week, also towards online promotional activities, including blogs, vlogs, video diaries, webisodes, social media account stuff. And so it was a ton of time for $100,000 a year. And I also had to agree to product and integration, which I wouldn't have known what the product was at the beginning. So because of that, I was sort of like, well, I don't know if I'm going to even like the product, but okay, I'll go ahead and look at this. So my attorney, however, that I'd hired, who was a legit production attorney, that this is what he does, is entertainment, TV production, and especially reality TV. So I hire this attorney. He's going to get a percentage of my contract, like an entertainment attorney does. And it was incredible, because when we got to this part of the contract is where I sort of had to put a little bit of, pump the brakes, because while it may be standard within the contract, it didn't feel good to me. And I'm just going to give you sort of the high level. I'm going to read you some of the legalese. But basically it says, in any way, they are allowed to record my actions and statements while I'm talking on the phone to anybody. They may use hidden audio and video recording devices, including in places where I could consider there to be a reasonable expectation of privacy. That includes in my home, and that includes in my car, in a restroom, in my purse, like anything. I consent that any of those recordings are theirs and they can use it. It says that they may edit, delete, dub, fictionalize, right, both footage and materials as they see fit. And for dramatic effect, they can make misrepresentation about the presentation, which is me, including without limitation, like nature, title, roles of participants. And they may include documentary style behind the scenes, dramatic, humorous, embarrassing, humiliating, or satirical elements. And I understand that my appearance, depiction, and portrayal in connection with this, and my actions and actions of others may be disparaging, defamatory, embarrassing, or unfavorable. They might expose me to public ridicule, humiliation, condemnation. They may portray me in a false light. They may have the right to include all information obtained about me except medical, like anything about me they could reveal that they found or that they dug up. My participation may cause me to be exposed to conversations, banter, behavior of other participants that may contain explicit reference to sex, gender, religion, age, disability, sexual orientation, national orientation, violence, and that I freely and knowingly consent to being in that environment where all of that is happening. And so, as I read this very extensive paragraph, very extensive, I was left out of it was about 2.5 page contract that what gave me so much pause. And as I was talking to my attorney about it, he was like, it's pretty standard. They're probably not going to record you in the bathroom. They're probably, this isn't a show like that. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about it. And so I was able to get past that, right? So I was able to go, okay, I'll have some control. By about the 3rd year, you can renegotiate your contract, make yourself a producer, and then you have more production abilities. So if you can get to that year, that apparently is the holy grail of reality TV. So I said, okay, fine, I'm going to do that. So essentially, they have now done the 20-minute epi has been done, the episode, and they have taken that piece and sent it off for review. So now we've shot the sizzle. I have a contract in hand. For me, it's like 90% done. And for everybody that I was talking to, they were like, this is going to go, like, don't even worry about it. And then we'll be what's called in development, which can take forever anyway. So it wasn't like it was a show that was going to happen like within 2 months, because we'd have to do the actual development piece of it as well. So what happens is we wait. It must have been probably 3 or 4 weeks before they get back to us about the episode. And this is kind of, where they say, here's some feedback on how we can make the show more sellable, right? We love the team approach to wedding planning. We love what she's about. This was super, super fun. So, and this was basically the quote, we love Sasha so, so, so much. What she does is so different. But do you think she can be any meaner? Can she yell at Melissa and her vendors? Can she get on that? Can we get that on video? They just wanted me to film something of me being overly dramatic and mean. And it was the phone call that the producer made to the director of development. He said, she's not going to do that. She just won't. Like, we just know she won't do that, because I made it very clear at the beginning, like, I was not going to, I didn't want to be that person. And I'm fine if, I make mistakes. You can go ahead and, if I make a mistake, show it. That's fine. It happens. But I'm not going to create this huge false narrative about who I am as a human being. And so they were like, she's not going to do that. And so he said, they'll ask me, right? But it was probably a no. And I'm going to tell you, and it was. I turned it down cold. And I turned it down cold and walked away from that. And here's why. Because most people are like, yeah, well, why wouldn't you just be like, yeah, okay, I can yell at her once in a while. How hard can that be? Like, it's not real, right? Not knowing if this was going to be one show and it was going to be a one-off, one and done, it wouldn't have maybe gotten the ratings, or maybe they wouldn't have been happy with it, but they'll show it anyway. And it's that one and done. And I have no ability to sort of redeem myself over multiple episodes. My concern was that I have a 16-year, at that point, career in events. And I wasn't going to ruin my reputation over $100,000. No way. And at that point, my youngest child was 3 years old. So, and he's now 12. But I was like, I didn't want to show up at Costco and have people look at me and be like, oh my God, that's her. She is such a horrible human being. I didn't want to take him to school or take him to sports or do any of these things and have people think that that was who I really was. And that was so deeply important to me that I was willing to walk away, because our industry, the event industry, already has enough stigma about how we take advantage of people. I didn't want to bring the stigma of this hair on fire event person who's unhinged with her vendors and bring that to the event industry. It wasn't fair to me. And so that crazy wedding planner was not what I wanted to depict. Not as an example of how wedding planners are or event designers are, and also not how I am. That was that. So I had a lot to gain by taking the job, right? By signing on the dotted line and taking the gig. But I also had a lot to lose. And for me, the amount that I had to lose completely outweighed the monetary gain. Because let's just say that one episode sits out there, floats out there forever. Okay, so now I have a potential client who's like, oh, let me research my wedding planner. And they come up with that episode, and like my eyes are crossed because I'm so upset and screaming about something that doesn't matter, like, the shade of whatever. So, or, I'm screaming at my floral designer who I'd had at that point an 11-year relationship with exclusively. And even if it was fake, it would have been so hurtful to her. Her feelings would have been so hurt. And that wasn't what I wanted. And so essentially, the producers, like I said, I loved them. I would do a show with them any day of the week. I would do any number of shows any day of the week. And they shopped it to other networks. The answer was the same. Can she be meaner? They all wanted drama and unreasonable behavior. And I like to say, I don't need to make up drama in my life or in my events. They're dramatic enough without fabricating. So a couple of years later, 2 years later, I'm on a beach on an island in the Caribbean, and I'm talking to another event designer. And they're saying that, they wanted the show and they were talking about having a show and all this stuff. And I said, well, I just turned down a show. And I told them why. And they said to me, I would sell my soul for that. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't sell my soul for that. So I didn't sell my soul for that. But I think that was also another thing that I just went, well, we're just not cut from the same cloth, and that's okay. So if you haven't listened to episode 7 of the podcast called Incongruent, you will see that what I'm saying now is very congruent with who I say that I actually am, because it sort of ties together this episode. And, would I ever go back and do a show for that network or for that production company? Hell yes, right? And I just wouldn't do it if they asked me to be meaner. So anyway, I hope that was kind of an interesting story for you guys to hear, and a little bit of behind the scenes on how, getting a television show might work and the things that you would be asked to do. So anyway, if you are looking for something really awesome for your business, I have that for you, and that's the Creative Collective. I'm going to tell you, I have never been more inspired by our industry. We are kicking some serious booty. We have now 146 members of the Creative Collective. We did just reopen the doors to it recently, and I'm going to tell you, you need to get on the wait list. And you can do that at consultancyforcreatives.com. And what we do in there is incredible. Every month there's a new lesson on a new focus of business. I'm doing event leader interviews, and those interviews are people who bring something really interesting to the table for you. Like we had Kate Pate, she talked about branding. We had Damani Daniel talk about virtual events. We had Braden Drake. He's an attorney. He talked about contracts. And I get to interview Preston Bailey, who's a good friend of mine, for the October 2020 interview. All of those are recorded. If you can't be a member of the Creative Collective or you can't make it, we do these awesome Q&As and hot seats where I basically take somebody's items, whether it be their website or their proposals, and I just break it all down. Maybe it's their social media. And we break it down so everyone else can learn. There's also monthly lessons with, like, if you were to go to a conference, presentations that I've given that you can go and watch, and that's in Wet Ed at Home. It is a lot of fun for me, and I hope that you will get on that wait list if you are not already inside the Creative Collective already. But I am so excited for this podcast, and you guys are just blowing me away with the downloads. So thank you so much. I would love it if you could rate it. Do you love this? Please, wherever you listen to podcasts, please give me a really quick rating. Let me know what you love and what I'm doing right. And if you ever need anything, you can always get a hold of us at help@sashasouzaevents.com. All right? Listen, go out there, make it awesome for yourselves. And I can't wait to chat with you next time.